Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Lots of news today. Great music there, Sam, to start off. A little Barracuda to warm us up this Friday morning. We are trying to get our American Sign Language person on. It worked yesterday, of course, and it's not working today. So you might see her pop up in the box at some point this morning. I want to be clear that all of our talks are downloaded to YouTube and that can be translated to any language once it is on YouTube. So anyone that wants to check that out afterwards, please do so. We have Costa Aguilar, Dr. Aguilar, joining us this morning to talk about the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. And we also have Director Christy Johnson to talk about our special education plans for this year. We will have folks working the chat box. If you have any specific questions, I want to recap the board meeting. The major news that came out of the board meeting is we are pushing the start date of school back 1 week to August 19th. We are pushing the start date of school back 1 week to August 19th. And the reason for that is to make sure we get all the technology in place, the MiFis and such for our students, and certainly it offers more time for training for our administration and our staff at the sites. So again, school will start August 19th. The school board voted on our reopening plan. One piece of it was that. The other piece was we are planning to be online all semester unless conditions change, and we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks, unless conditions change per the health department. There is a very encouraging news hopefully coming out today on the athletic front. We expect the state to differentiate between youth sports and high school training. And so we look forward to that guidance this afternoon. So hopefully we will see positive changes there. As you know, all athletics were shut down a couple weeks ago. And so there is a possibility of moving back to phase one in the next week or so. That's not for sure. We have to wait for the guidance from the state. Our communications plan. I just want to review a few things for our listeners. All of our administration and counselors are now back at the site. Sam will share a link at some point this morning where all of the contact numbers for sites will be listed for you. If you have individual questions for your students, or you need counseling support, you want to ask your principal what's going on at their site, please call that number. A number of different initiatives will be explained and shared with you from the site level over the next week, and that includes roundup activities, freshman orientation and orientation for other grades, device distribution, your Chromebooks and your MiFis, class schedules, meal service, after-school tutorial opportunities, access to technology support, and access to academic and social-emotional counseling services. So all that will be shared with you next week at the site level. So I know there are a lot of folks that want that information right now. We are still negotiating with our teaching staff on some items, but in general, we have most of that information ready to go, and you will receive it next week. Sam, is there anything else you would like to add from the perspective of the communication plan?
Yeah, well, hello everyone. Sorry, I was just dealing with some communication or tech issues in the background. So I caught the majority of what you said. You talked about the start date being pushed a week. Did you get into why that was pushed back with the mobile devices?
Yes, making sure our MiFis are accessible and ready to go for all students. We want everyone to get off on the right foot here. That's the bottom line. Right. And if we need to take another week to do that and make everyone feel comfortable, so be it.
Okay, great. Yeah, in the name of equity, that's just the best decision that could have been made. We want to talk about, I mean, this leaves open, of course, the door. I know there's still negotiations going on, but it gives more time for staff to basically prepare for distance learning.
Absolutely. There will be opportunities for staff to train next week and the following week, along with your 2 mandatory days on the 17th and 18th of August. And that information, staff, I know you're anxious for that information. We will get that out to you as soon as possible, but you can plan on training opportunities next week and the following week that will also be paid.
Yeah, so the communications plan that I shared, there were a lot of TBDs because we still didn't have a clear start date, but now that we do, a lot of those dates that kind of circle around that are starting to be filled in. I've seen schools share on social media that would round up dates for freshmen, Chromebook distribution, school pictures, all those back to school activities. They're now coming. And this is what we talked about in our last one, as far as how July is typically a dead month for us. And now with August upon us, campuses are starting to come to life. And so they're going to start getting more and more notifications about these activities. So that's just something.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, great. Do you want to just go over, briefly touch on the difficult discussions topic?
Oh, sure. Director Johnson spent 10 to 15 minutes basically talking about how we are going to educate our administrators and educate our staff on how to have difficult conversations around the social unrest in our country right now. How to talk about it in a way that allows for perspective and deep discussion. And Mr. Johnson has done a great job. That's kind of what he does best, dealing with folks on a one-on-one level. And he will work with our administration in the next couple of weeks to help them disseminate all the information in the report, and that will also be going out to staff. So kudos to Director Johnson on that. Very well planned and well received by the Board of Trustees.
Okay, and then I want to make sure we talk about, I know you touched on it in your opening, but in the we're having the return of the admin meetings yesterday and today, and in your welcome back, you were adamant in pointing out the social emotional learning is going to be priority number one. Do you want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think we all know as adults the toll and the stress this has caused for us personally, certainly as an organization. And as I have said before, we have dealt with it the very best I think we could have. And it's difficult for staff to digest all the constantly changing information and expectations, which is why, negotiations takes a while. But we think about our students and the stress they are feeling, how a senior coming into their senior year, is looking at this year and wondering if it's going to be lost, and they're going to be spending their entire year online. All the socialization that school provides and is kind of the essence of what we do, both between students and students to teachers, and teachers having to figure out how to provide that online is very difficult. And it's difficult for students to deal with this crisis. It's a crisis. And we know that there is a huge effect on our students and their feelings around this. And we have to be accessible both by phone and in person to deal with these needs. And we're going to do that. That's a priority before anything this year, is being accessible for those needs. And it's important for staff to understand that. It's important for administrators to understand that from a leadership point of view, that we have to be there for our students, providing that backup, providing that space, providing that calm, moderate voice in helping them deal with whatever issues they have in their life and frustrations they may have, as we all deal with this pandemic. So that will be priority number one in our district,
Great.
along with safety, of course.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people we didn't get so many questions this time, but we have been getting a lot of questions about how the district is going to ensure the social emotional learning, as well as access to mental health support. And we have Director Johnson with us. If you want to talk a little bit about that, what services are going to be available for students during distance learning, and how is the district going to provide those?
I think the number one thing that we need to talk about is the fact that counselors will be available to students during the school day, and that's through email, through phone, through Zoom, so they can reach out to their counselor at any time. And then if they are feeling like they're in crisis, or they need help, or they want to see somebody in person, we will have a walk-up area designated at every school site, and at that site, or at that area, students can go and they can request to see a counselor, and there'll be somebody there to talk to them. And if necessary, make appropriate referrals.
Okay, great. And so that's good to hear. So they are being seen by appointment, but there will also be that immediate access for those who have those immediate needs.
Absolutely.
And for questions around, how are we going to check for symptoms to anybody coming on campus? We will have one access point at every campus, manned by one of our liaisons, and there will be a temperature check. We'll probably have our health aide at that table. So we will take every precaution as we offer these services, but we have to be available in person for both social, emotional, and any, folks get frustrated with technology or any curricular questions. Technology is not working at the house. They need to come into the school, and they need help on that side of the house. And certainly we're going to be available for that too. So we will be screening everyone that comes onto campus, but we will be available, and the public will have access to in-person services.
All right. So as you mentioned, and as everyone can see, Dr. Aguilar, Assistant Superintendent, has joined us, and he also talked at the board meeting regarding the learning continuity and attendance plan. And as you may have noticed, that the acronym is still LCAP. So Dr. Aguilar, can you talk a little bit about how those two, did the LCAP mold into this new iteration? How is that? And then tell us a little bit about the plan that you went over at the board meeting.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And again, thank you for having me on your show here. Before I start, I wanted to say thank you to all the parents that had reached out. From our previous meeting, I had some really good discussions over the last week with parents, just with general concerns and genuine concerns about their child. And many of those concerns did revolve around the learning continuity and attendance plan. So in essence, over the last several years, we have what we call the Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP. And last year, because of the sudden halt in the pandemic, we weren't able to complete the entire process of the Local Control Accountability Plan, which is in essence an opportunity for parents and community members and students and staff to give input as to the resources and programs and support systems that will better serve our students. Because that didn't happen, the state gave districts an opportunity to give a report at the end of the year, given certain criteria to ensure that we are still feeding our students, that we are providing instruction, and things of that nature. Well, this year, the state has asked us to report by September 30th of this year around the learning continuity and attendance plan. There are several elements to that plan. One of them is ensuring that we're meeting the social emotional needs of students. Director Johnson and Superintendent Peterson just discussed and touched upon some of the services that we'll provide, with that. However, we still want to hear from parents. What's interesting is we're going to be starting school on August 19th, yet the state is asking us to turn in a plan with board approval by September 30th. So it's a little disconjointed, if you would. Just because we have something set up for students around social emotional learning or any student needs around counseling does not mean that we have it all figured out. By no means do we have it all figured out. There are plenty of opportunities for parents to reach out to my office and to each campus to learn more about what support systems are going to be put in place and in more detail. Along with the learning continuity plan, for instance, we have to ensure that we're engaging with students, that we're addressing student learning loss, that we're training our teachers, and a few other elements. So I encourage everyone out there listening right now to stay tuned and listen to their school sites and their school principals for opportunities for them to hear them on a platform like this over the next week, over the next 2 weeks, so parents can get their questions addressed.
Okay, great. And then, that's something that was also brought up in the communications plan is sites will be holding these types of live situations, live Zooms, and whatever platform they choose, but they will be holding these live forums for parents and families to get their site-specific questions answered. Mr. Peterson, can you talk a little bit more about the importance of that? Because all these questions we really couldn't answer, but now we're starting to be able to.
Yeah, it's about creating the specific space for parents. Obviously, that's difficult. We can't just call a meeting. It's also difficult to have a Zoom meeting with 50 parents or 100 parents. So for these meetings to be effective, they need to be a small group and well planned. I want to reiterate something Dr. Aguilar said. We don't have it all figured out. And we need to hear from parents and their experience, their frustrations, their kudos. And we also need to hear from students and giving them the specific space to communicate what it is they need. And while we have to get off the ground in the next few weeks, we will be planning those opportunities right really at the beginning of school. You'll see those invitations come out probably the second or third week of August and into early September, where we will provide parents and students the specific opportunity to give feedback, and we will change and adjust. I mean, that's what we've been doing for 6 months. We're very used to being flexible. So yes, by no means, because the state is late on this, don't think your voice is silenced or late. We could be going on with this for quite a while. So we need to make the adjustments necessary, both from the parent and student perspectives.
Yeah, if I may add to that, yesterday I had the opportunity to survey 50 students, 9th through 12th graders, some of them incoming freshmen, in a summer school class, and it was their last day. And I wanted to get feedback, and part of it was obviously around the learning continuity and attendance plan. But it was very insightful when you ask the students what they need to be successful in an online learning environment and what they want. They want engagement. They want the face-to-face interactions with teachers, with adults, with each other. And something that we've addressed as a school district, and I'm really proud of our school board's decision and the direction that we went with here not too long ago, was we invested in purchasing hotspots, the MiFis for every student. We've invested in webcams with a microphone for every teacher, and we've invested in software like Zoom. These are all tools that we did not have in the spring that we will have available when we reopen school. I know one of the parents' concerns as well was having that face-to-face interaction, with each other, students, but also with teachers and students. So I think right now we're in a situation where we are trying to plan and do the best we can to provide that for our students, but at the same time we are improving what we did last spring. And I also want to emphasize that the type of instruction that happened last spring is not distance learning, right? It was an emergency reaction to a pandemic, and schools having to pivot and now offer school online, when over the last 3 or 4 years we had spent countless hours planning, training teachers to do teaching face-to-face and hands-on, especially around our career technical education courses. So our teachers and our students really need to speak up about what tools they need, how we can better engage our students throughout the day, and the amount of time that's going to be needed throughout the day to be able to do that. I've been listening to Dr. Pedro Noguera out of University of Southern California, and around some of the research and some of the white papers that have been written around reopening of school, and the amount of time that students are going to need and teachers are going to need to address the learning loss is incredibly important for us to address. We cannot shorten the amount of time for students in the classroom. We need to extend the amount of time that students have in the classroom. And that doesn't necessarily mean that students are in front of a computer all day. That means that they're giving projects that they can work on their own. That means that they're given time within the classroom to work in small groups. But shortening the amount of time for students to learn is not what we need right now. It's counterintuitive to what we're trying to do to address the learning loss of students and what happened to them in the spring. And this is something that we're going to have to address in this learning continuity and attendance plan.
Right, and a big question everyone had was how the district, what assurances are there that the district The curriculum is going to be, you know, and we've talked about it. Spring was spring, and you know, but what assurance are there that this current curriculum that we have for distance learning is going to be, you know, it's going to be challenging. It's going to engage our students, and it's going to be, you know, relative education, all the things that we talked about beforehand.
Yeah, like I mentioned a bit ago, you know, we have to remember that, especially around courses around career technical education and even our core courses, we were asking, you know, for a student-centered classroom. And now, because we're having to pivot, things have changed, and teachers are having to rethink their lessons, and it's not easy, right? However, you know, the amount of training, the type of training that our teachers are going to be getting and receiving, not just at the beginning, but throughout the school year, is going to be very, very critical for them to be successful throughout the year. Lesson design is incredibly important when you're working online. There are different types of learning online. I'm not going to use all these academic words with asynchronous and synchronous for our audience, but simply that means, you know, we want an asynchronous environment, which means you know, students to get work, you know, to do online, but we also want the synchronous experience, which means they have interactions face to face with teachers and with their peers to do this type of learning. To try to design that kind of learning, you know, for students and for teachers takes training. So Director Johnson and Program Administrator Garman have put together really, really good training for our teachers. Our administrators started receiving some of that training yesterday, which is continuing on today and through next week. So I'm very confident that with the type of training that we have, with the lesson design, teaching in an online environment, that we are equipped, and we will continue to improve every day, every week, every month, as we continue to do this, because we'll have more experience.
And I want to reiterate a point that Dr. Aguilar made. We don't want our students or our staff online all day long. It's providing that extra time each day to have that face-to-face, and it naturally lends itself to project-based learning, you know, which we've been talking about in this district for the last few years, and we have become stronger and stronger each year. Is it a different environment? Is it going to be more challenging? Absolutely. But I think we have a very, very strong plan and strong training for staff, and they will certainly feel more comfortable, and it will be an entirely different experience from the spring. I just want to comment on that quickly. That was an emergency. We didn't have a choice. We have been planning for this for the last few months. So everything from access and equity for students, from a network and device point of view, we have that in place. Training and equity for staff across the board, we have that in place. And as we wrap up negotiations today, hopefully we will be able to announce and start those things next week. I want to move on now to Director Johnson and talk a little bit about special education in this environment and distance learning. And first, I want to ask her, what can students expect from a student perspective? What should they be thinking about? You know, what concerns are students going to have, and how would you comment to them? And we will move on to parents after we talk about students.
I think that one of the things that our special education teachers do best is build relationships with students. And so with that relationship, the student who has an IEP, they need to use that relationship to get the help that they need. So students, the most important thing that they need to do is to log in and participate in classes. And when they're struggling or when they have questions or when they need help, they need to reach out to their case managers often. And case managers are very good about providing all the needed supports for students.
Okay, thank you. Key point there, reach out to your case managers, communication. And talking about that, we are fully aware with our experience this summer in summer school and our experience in the spring that there is going to be a large percentage of students that are disengaged, that don't even log on to the computer. And when they do, they're not super engaged. And I want to stress to everyone listening that every single site has an intervention team that will be ready to go to address those issues and make home visits and parent calls. And so you can expect that those supports are in place for teachers. Teachers will turn in the list to the intervention team, and the intervention team will do their best to get those students engaged. So
one of the advantages we have for students with IEPs is that their caseload manager usually stays with them for all 4 years of high school. So most students already know their caseload manager. So the concerns that I'm getting mostly in my office are from parents of incoming freshmen because they don't know their case manager and they're stressing, and I totally understand it about what's going to happen for their student.
yes, and we will have those communication platforms in place so parents and students can get comfortable with their caseload manager.
And our caseload managers are back on the 17th of August. And so we're asking that for incoming freshmen, that special education staff reach out to all of the families and make a phone call so that they kind of can lessen some of their worries.
Okay, thank you. A parent perspective, special ed parent, what are their concerns? What should they be thinking about from your perspective?
Well, I want to reassure everybody that all of the services that are in a student's IEP will still be happening, even though we're going to be doing this remotely. So accommodations and modifications that are in place in a student's IEP will still happen. We will still have special education teachers and paraprofessionals in the general ed classrooms helping students as needed. And then for students who have an SDC class for math or English or science, or even a resource student who has a learning skills class, those classes will be held synchronously, meaning that they will be interacting with their teacher on Zoom for that entire period so they can get the help that they need.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to staff. I'm sure we have a few special ed teachers out there listening right now, or will be listening to the recording later. What information do you have for them?
So just to reiterate that all services in the IEP and the service minutes will be provided just as they are. Students will be working with them synchronously, like I mentioned. And then I think the most important thing is our special education teachers are wonderful at checking in with students. So just a reminder that they'll need to do that often and to give progress updates to both parents and students often, because we need to know immediately if there's an issue so we can intervene and put in more supports.
So really it's the two-way communication between, or three-way communication between the student, the parent, and the caseload manager to make sure students are progressing.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Director Johnson. Let's
Hang on real quick.
Yes.
She mentioned that synchronous word, and I just want to, for everyone that doesn't understand, because that word's going to be coming up here as we get closer. What is synchronous and asynchronous? What do those things mean?
Dr. Aguilar, you want to take that one?
Sure. Synchronous means that you are meeting in face-to-face in real time in a platform like we have right now. Asynchronous means that you're given work to do through the internet, online, without interacting with another person to do that work.
And we would really like to, with the schedule that we are negotiating, we would really like that to be a 50-50 proposition for our students every day.
We had a question come up. I'm sorry, were you done with that topic?
Yeah, go ahead.
About a counselor return date. There's a lot of dates being thrown around in the chat. So I want to know, is that something, I know that we were saying the 31st, which is today. Has that changed?
No, we have counselors back today, and all counselors will not be back at the same time, but there will be counseling services available over the next 10 days.
Okay, got it. So hopefully that clears that up. I saw a bunch of different dates going around. We did get a few questions, so we can start running through those. The first one, and either one of you can speak up about it if you can. So the first one is, a lot of returning students already have their Chromebooks. Will they be getting a new one when they get their hotspots?
No, they won't be getting a new Chromebook, but they will be picking up their MiFi or their hotspot.
And stay tuned to your site's communications for those dates, whether it's social media, Parent Square, those dates will be coming up. Will the library be open to return books from last year?
I highly doubt the library will be open to return books in person, but we will have a process at site for books and other materials to be dropped off. We're going to try to do the best we can with drive-through options for everything.
Okay. Next question. If an athletics period is allowed, will it still be the last period of the day?
It will be, yes. And athletics periods will still be on the master schedule. I have heard rumors from different people that we're taking athletics away. We are not. Athletic periods will remain on the master schedule, and we will, depending on the Merced County Public Health Department and their guidance, allow students to do, whatever we can with conditioning and such.
I just saw this question pop up in the chat. Is there going to be a new bell schedule? This was discussed at the board meeting, and I know it's still in negotiations. However, if something isn't agreed upon, then I understand, does it revert just to the what the bell schedules are now? Is that correct?
Yeah, if there isn't an agreement, everything reverts to what we currently have, the current bell schedule at the campus. But I am hopeful that that will not be the case.
Okay. Next question. When will, about the 1 week that we're starting later, how will that week be made up? Will we go longer into June? Where are those dates going to come from?
Longer into June is a possibility. We could take a couple days from Thanksgiving. We could take a few days from the February break, and we will work with our unions to come up with the best schedule for everyone.
This is probably a more site-specific question. When will students get their class schedules? I would just, unless Dr. Aguilar, you know something, but I would suggest they just kind of stay tuned to their site's information communications.
Yeah, that will all be posted next week from sites, and I would expect schedules to go out probably the week before school starts, so the week of the 12th in that area.
Okay. And then for parents who are, because things are different now, and they may be in a panic as to if they wanted to change their student schedule, once those come out, I'm sure it'll just be like before, but in a different.
Yeah, they'll make appointments with their guidance office, and they will work with their counselor on those individual situations.
All righty.
And I just want to reiterate for the public, you will be screened when you come on campus, because I know there's going to be some folks that really want face-to-face, and those meetings will not take place in an office most of the time. They will take place outside. So we're going to use the very safest recommendations from Merced County Public Health for any sort of face-to-face.
an interesting question. Someone brought up how was one school able to send out information about Roundup and others haven't? Same thing with information about Merced College classes, and we talked about this as far as getting everyone in a uniform communications pattern, which is what needs to happen. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, our sites are very used to operating with a general framework from the district office, and which means everything is not going to go out on the same day, but generally the same information gets out there within the same time frame within reason. However, we spoke at the board meeting a lot about this, about the uniformity and being consistent across the district. So our site administrators are very clear, our principals are very clear, cabinet is very clear that it's going to be a little bit different this year, a little more directive. And that is an adjustment for sites that I think people will see over the next few weeks.
Dr. Aguilar, a question for you. Is Merced College, prepared for this increase in enrollment due to MUHSD students taking Merced College courses? I know we're offering AP now that everyone's online. However, now that we're getting more and more promotion out there about those classes that can be taken, is Merced College prepared for this?
Yes, we communicate with Merced College weekly, if not daily, with regard to serving our students. There are a variety of options for students to earn that college credit. So again, I urge parents to contact their school counselors. Of course, parents, if they have an immediate question or a very general question, they can always contact me. We have a great relationship with Merced College, and in years past, there have been caps that have been put on classes. But I just want to remind our audience that Merced College is completely online now. So we don't have the same constraints that we've had in the past. Because in the past, obviously they were on ground, and then they had very few online options. So now they're completely online. We're completely online. One of the advantages, of course, of having that is that there's a lot more flexibility throughout the day for our students to take courses out at Merced College. So yes, I'm very confident that our students will be accommodated, at Merced College with courses that they need.
Yeah. And they can sign up now, correct? They don't have to wait?
Yes, the first steps for parents that have never had their child enroll at Merced College can all be done online before you even have to speak to anyone. So I encourage parents to visit the Merced College landing page and enrolling their child. There's a lot of information there, much like we do with Roundup, that can be done online before you even have to access the counselor. Because a lot of the information that the counselor is going to need to register your child will need to be done before. So again, parents, I encourage you to visit the online Merced College website to register. There are a lot of support numbers there if you do have questions with Merced College and enrolling.
All right. A couple more questions, and then we're going to have to end because I know it's a training day, and I know that both of you actually are leading some of these sessions. So I wanted to touch on the freshman aspect again, about how we are going to have additional communications for the parents and the students who are coming into this. I won't say blind, but this is the start of their high school career. So how important is it that we do that additional communications to those parents?
Well, site principals will be doing Facebook Live or Zoom meetings with parents next week. And next week will kind of be a general question. And as I said last week, we kind of start the funnel wide. I'm giving you the 10,000 foot view. Then it's going to go to the principal. And then as we get closer to the school year, we will have topics that are focus for specific grade levels. So, for example, a Zoom question and answer session for parents just for ninth graders. A Zoom session just for ninth graders themselves as students. And our APs will meet with them and talk with them about what to expect. So we're going to be spending a lot of time online setting up meetings. And again, to cover the masses, this is great. This works, and we can take chat questions. But when it comes down to your individual questions, it's that are site specific and student specific. That needs to be handled at the site, and those Zoom meetings need to be set up one-on-one or small group with site administration. So again, you can expect all that to happen in the next 2 weeks at your site.
Yes. So please check your emails, your Parent Square notifications, follow your school social media if you're not following them, and that those are the best ways. And then of course it'll be all on the websites if you're not on social media. So I would check out the websites often as well.
Yes, and I've seen questions in the past, folks that don't have access to technology or social media. We will be sending everything out in the mail early next week. I know principals' welcome back letters with all that information you can expect by midweek next week. So we're going to cover every platform and mode of information we can.
Yeah. And just real quick, in addition to the help desk, the walk-up desk, there will be a helpline available, right, for those any questions.
Absolutely. We have staff available right now. If you have questions at your site, give them a call. I do want to be clear for today. Administrators are in trainings all day, so that return call may not come until Monday morning or later this afternoon, but they will all get back to you. And they are all well aware that there are many questions out there, and our expectation of our sites is they get back to parents and students within 24 hours.
Okay, great. And as you said, our administrators, they are leading these sessions. So I thank you so much for your time, Dr. Aguilar and Director Johnson, and of course, Superintendent Peterson. Anything that you want to close out with in this last minute?
I will close out with what I always close out with. If we want any sense of normalcy for our students this year, we in Merced County, in every community, need to follow the precautions. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your family, talk to your friends. It's absolutely imperative for our students.
All right. So with that, go ahead and give your goodbye until next week.
Until next time, have a great weekend, everyone.
Is there a second button?